Well, hello there, YouTubers. It's been several weeks since I posted one of these vids. It's a short talk in the trailer park with an old guy, and I've been having my stupid adventures. Let me just tell you, uh, I uh, I get into some of the dumbest things, and I think to myself later on, really, were you doing that? It's like, yeah, I was doing that. So anyway, there's a big storm going on right now. People in the south, I guess, are getting really just clobbered by a winter storm. And I've been praying for that the storm would be lesser than it had been predicted. They were talking about ice and stuff like that, taking down power lines, taking down trees, and all that. And so, there's a lot of people in the South. There's a big population down there. I've got an older brother who lives outside of Chattanooga, and I got with him the other day on text, and he said, well, he's got stoked up on firewood, and he's got a backup generator and something called ice melt. I think he's talking about salt, but I'm not sure. But anyway, so I felt real good that he's being smart and taking care of things. And anyway, so over here in Las Cruces, we've been getting a lot of real good drizzly rain. So the other morning I woke up and I was hearing this tap, tap. You can see there's this wood siding stuff. You'll see this people they used to call them in a den. Anyway, it's all over the place inside here instead of drywall. So the roof was leaking and it was dripping on that wood up there above my head in bed, and I thought, well, I need to get up and take a look at that. So yesterday I got up with a ladder that I'd borrowed from a lady I know, and that thing, the roof just looked horrible. I haven't been up to fix that thing or do anything to fix it in probably 6 years or more. And it looked it. It was like, oh my gosh, what a train wreck. So being the genius that I am, I I got online and started talking to that robot, that Gemini 3 thing, and it claimed there's a product, Henry's 208R, and then there's one that's even better, 209XL or something like that. That supposedly the 209 is so good that you could apply it underwater. And I thought, yeah. Well, that seems a little hard to believe. So anyway, I got up there today and it was raining. Pretty nice steady drizzle, been going on for hours. So I started whacking the top of the roof with the edge of a sheetrocking knife and knocking these big old chips loose of all that old roofing patch and guck that I'd put on over the years to try to keep putting on layer after layer of something to hold the water out. And so it's a real mess up there. But anyway, I got up there and I thought, wait, I'm doing pretty good. And so next step, I dragged up a garden hose. We got, those little brass nozzles where you can start throwing a nice strong stream of water. So I was blasting the stuff off the roof just to get it off of here. And about 20 seconds before I was ready to come down, I saw one little spot at the end. I said, hey, I got to get that clear. So I walked over a little bit, about 3 steps further, and I hear the step ladder going, and I went, uh-oh. I'm up on top of the roof, and it's raining. So I'd already spoken with a young guy I know who is in between jobs right now, and I've offered him a side job of becoming a kind of a roof repair guy on the side. He's just got to apply this stuff with a putty knife. And thank God he picked up the phone. I've been trying to get a hold of the guy on the phone all day, and he won't pick up. And so he came and rescued me. He got me off the roof, which is a good thing. And I was soaking wet. And, that seriously, that's the kind of junk that passes for normal around here. But anyhow, we're going to try laying on a layer of that tomorrow. In theory, the sun should come out. And this roofing stuff is so good, supposedly, that even if there's some moisture left in there, you can just kind of blaze over it, and in theory, it'll seal it up. Well, we'll find out about that now, won't we? Anyway, I've been really hesitant to do a video lately because it just seems like, I don't know, is the world just going insane or blowing up or something? I mean, does that seem that way to you? I keep seeing these videos on YouTube Trump's doing this, Trump's doing that, and I'm really kind of done with following Donald Trump. I'm sad to say, and I think I've mentioned this before, that I did vote for the guy in 2024, and ever since then, all of his promises have been huge nothing burgers. And Epstein, what are we going to do about that? Zero. And what are we going to do about the JFK files? We're still waiting the complete release. Is that ever going to be released? Probably not. But so I get depressed. I'm looking around, and the WEF is trying to talk about, what do you call it? Digitization of everything, or some horrible thing, and that would mean a unified electronic currency and everything. And I'm just looking at this and thinking, none of this sounds like good news, And I do like to have an aspect to these videos where the good news of the Bible is solid good news, and it is news. Something happened in our world, and I just wanted to show you something. I went to this dermatologist. I got this call yesterday. I'm changing the subject. About 4:45 in the afternoon, and they wanted to schedule an appointment for Sunday morning at 9:30. I went, what? And doing a little surgery here on this lip. Now you can't hardly see it, but they did a little biopsy right on that thing there. And right now it's just got a little bit of a scab over it. It doesn't hurt or anything like that. But check out my neck. My neck is just inflamed. And it's like, it was not like that. I know it was not like that before I went to the dermatologist. And so it's real sensitive. Even something as rough and tough as this fuzzy wuzzy stuff on the inside of here. It's like, it feels like it's raking over my skin. So they gave me some cream and junk to put on there, and I thought, so I'm done with that. Just like, forget it. They told me only to use it for 4 or 5 days, and I just thought, I don't know what's in that junk, but I don't want it anymore. Now they want to do another surgery later on, a local, because apparently this surgeon, she's a traveling surgeon, and maybe a regional thing, and so she's only in town every so often. And so it turns out her schedule was she was going to be here tomorrow, and I just thought, that's got to be the weirdest thing ever. But so anyway, I'm going to go in, and she's probably going to cut me open or something over there. It's just like, but boy, there's a lot of nerves in the upper lip. If you've ever been cut on your upper lip, there's like 9 jillion nerve endings in there. And I'm not at all excited about. There's another little boo-boo on my hand here on the back. I don't know if you can even see it. It's a little dot. They did a biopsy on that thing, if you can believe it. Now they want to do another surgery on that. It's like, what? And one more somewhere else, which I can't even remember where. But he was going a little crazy that day with his little nitrogen gun, just pow, 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 blasting everywhere. And so anyway, I'm not real. In fact, it might be on top of my noggin. There's still a light scab up there. But I'm thinking maybe I just should have stayed out of the dermatologist's office altogether. It's a basal cell skin carcinoma thing, which I guess is not too awfully serious unless you just ignore it and ignore it and ignore it. But it just seems to me, and maybe you have other experience. I hope your experiences are better. But like, is there any good news when you're dealing with doctors? It just seems like you go in for one thing, and pretty soon you got 3 or 4 new problems you never had before. And it's like, I'm not sure the medicine is doing its job. So anyway, it gets depressing. It's sort of like a downward spiral. I sometimes complain to the Lord in prayer, feeling like, man, it feels like you're disassembling me over here. You're just stripping off everything that I thought I kind of knew about life and stuff, which is probably a good thing because, in my opinion, my opinions are a dime a dozen. But the thing is that it's like, well, when you have a situation where everything just seems to be breaking down, it's like a serial breakdown, and this is kind of what I'm seeing on a grand scale in the US of A. It looks to me like an empire collapse. You know, you have these high pressure, high power um, billionaires and hotshots who are, you know, they are perverts. They are child molesters, and these people belong at the very minimum in prison for life, and preferably a death sentence, in my opinion. Will any of that ever happen to them? Probably not. They're billionaires. There's two laws in this land, one for you and me, and one for the ultra rich and the super powerful. And so it breeds a cynicism in people where they, you know, after a while, it doesn't really matter what someone like Trump has to say on any given topic. Nobody believes him, and that it's counterproductive. It's like if you want to rule well, you have to be honest at the very minimum. And apparently, that's the one thing that's outside the envelope. A little bit of some good news along the cigarette front. The last pack I bought was Sunday afternoon. Tomorrow it'll be 1 week. And I keep falling down on the job. You know, I hang around people sometimes who have cigarettes. And it's like I borrowed a bummed one about an hour and a half ago when Chris came by to get me off the roof. But this chronic cough, it's a dry cough, and it's actually good news. In other words, apparently this is such a deep addiction that the only thing that will change my mind is to be physically revolted at the thought of putting one of those things in my mouth. And you know the flavor is not that great. You know the only good thing about them is you get a little buzz, but that only happens on the first one, and then after that you got to wait like a day or two or three before you can catch a buzz again, and it only lasts a couple of minutes. It is not worth it. If you're considering smoking, don't. But I've known that all of my life, and you know, so Cornelius Van Til says that all sin is a sin against better knowledge. You knew going in, I knew going in that it was a bad idea. And so I'm thinking that in terms of the decay or the apparently the collapse of the empire, or in this case, the collapse of my health, it causes you to step back and look at the world differently and realize that everything's temporary. I believe it's the Apostle John says the world system that we see is passing away even before our eyes. The good news is that there is a new system, a new governance, a new order which has entered our world called the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And it's an authority where the true the author rules, and he has invented all things. He's given life to all the creatures. He made and designed the whole package from before the earth had its first hiccup. He knew that I'd be up on that roof today. And he still loves us, you know, because I think that's been my big headache and my big hang up all these years is that looking at this track record that I've got that I'm so familiar with, you know, I discuss myself. And I think to myself, speaking to God, I don't know why you put up with me. I mean, there's nothing, you don't get anything out of this except maybe some honor, maybe a little bit of glory occasionally when I finally come out of my coma and thank the Lord for his tremendous patience, his astonishing endurance, and his steady, strong, and sure hand. You know, justice is coming. Judgment will be here in person one day, and all this chaos and all this uproar and all no more people on the roof. All this insanity will come to a screeching halt. But the Lord didn't begin with that. Jesus said, I didn't come into this world to judge the world, but to save it. And what he's saying is that the judgment, the power of justice, which must be displayed, or God ceases being God, has been displayed in him. Hanging up there on that cross, bloody, beaten beyond recognition, lacerated, mocked, spit on, at his absolute direst hour of need, it was then that the Father said essentially, you become sin. I don't know you. And God the Father turned his back on him, on his own blessed Son. And why? Why would Jesus have volunteered for such a thing? Well, first of all, he's an obedient son. He's the obedient son, if you'd like to know. And the Father told him to. But beyond that, he wanted to because he cares for your welfare. You think you're a loser? You think you're some sort of silly, hopeless addict? You think you're worthless as a person? I got you beat. Paul said at one point he was the chief of sinners. So, I mean, I'm not going to try to muscle the guy out of that position, but at least I got to be coming somewhere in there, maybe a third in command, or, not command, but I mean, in terms of shame. And there's no hope for us as persons. Do you ever feel this is just hopeless? It's hopeless. Well, then own it. Own it. And say it really is. There was never a shred of chance that when the devil invented the first lie and deceived the hosts of heaven and drew the wrath of God, and then later on he deceived our parents, there was never even a shred of a chance that insane plan, that ass backward, crazy, batshit crazy idea never had a hope of success. Ever. It doesn't make any sense. It can't make sense because it's not dealing with what's real. The creation is made by the God of heaven and earth. And you hear all this racket noise about, well, you create your own reality hour by hour. Well, no, you don't. But what you can shape it. In other words, the Lord placed Adam here to care for the earth, to govern it, yes, but as a steward, as an under guardian. And so we have a legit job of essentially shaping things. Men take the earth and they make pottery. Men mine the earth and make metal things out of it. In other words, we become shapers, we become artisans, we become those who use what it was given to us as a resource or a series of resources. And so the good news is that eternal kingdom, the one where, the place everything makes sense, that's coming. And it's already real. It's already begun. And if you trust Jesus to have forgiven you and to wash away your wretchedness, well, you may not feel like it. You may still feel like a loser, because I know that feeling. But the thing is that you're not a loser if you're in him, because he is the original success story. We've been joined. We are in union with the King of Heaven. And so I'm going to end up skipping church tomorrow in order to go have him cut my lip open, which is just bizarre to me. And like I said, I'm going to maybe question this business about these other 2 surgeries in the future. It's like, I'm not real wowed by the look what you did to my neck, that kind of thing. And so we'll see about that. Now, my older sister, Polly, passed away from the effects of melanoma years ago, and it was a real cause of grief to me, and of course to the family, and of course her children and her husband. But it's once you get that stuff in your body, in your lymph system and stuff like that, it's a killer. Melanoma is. And so as soon as I thought of skin cancer, I thought, well, let's just freeze it and make it go away. And well, nothing's that simple, like ever. And so I'm going to go in for a surgery on the 3rd for this left shoulder, that weird deal with the curettage, where they're going to get in there and scoop out all that cyst that's up on top of that bone and pack it full of something to kind of reshape the bone and like that. Well, and I'll give you a heads up after that sometime about how that went. But it's like, I feel like I'm just falling apart. If it ain't one darn thing, it's another. And yet the Lord is steady, He's sure, and He becomes our goal. I believe it was Abraham who regarding the Lord said, He Himself is my great and my exceeding great reward. You want treasure? He's the treasure in person. And we as Christians are being trained not only to say it, not only to believe it, but to begin to walk it out in new life here and now. Resurrection life begins in this world, and that's the gift. He changes everything. He changes your hopelessness into a new and living way founded upon resurrection power. So run to win, and remember, no matter how bad things look, He's at the end of this waiting for you, waiting to embrace you, and He cares for you more than you can even possibly guess. God bless you, and I hope you have a good day.